All right, Shalom. First and foremost, want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth, and Shalom to the hopeful elect. Um, Shalom to the Akim and Akwaf scattered on the four corners of the globe. All right, that have returned to the obedience of the scriptures. All right, I'm the brother Iraq, and I wanted to do a quick sit down, real quick. All right, just going into something that was placed upon my spirit. And I'll entitle the lesson, Prepare Your Mind for Persecution. All right, prepare your mind for persecution. Um, as we can see, 2026 is rapidly, developing. There's a lot of prophecies that are playing out, are going to continue to play out. All right, with the two main prophecies that we're waiting, all right, being the MOTB and Jacob's trouble. All right. And it's looking like the way that the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah, the way he has this looking is that these things are going to pop off, rapid fire. Like always give the analogy, you good, bro? Always give the example, you put a bag of popcorn in the microwave, for the first, 2 minutes of the cycle, really nothing happens to the bag. And then you get towards, the latter end of the cycle of the time and things start escalating quickly, so that's what we see playing out. And with that being said, we should be preparing our minds, to be tried, because that's what this whole thing is about. All right, ultimately us being tried. All right, and Lord willing found worthy by Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. But I'm going to start off here in the book of First Peter. All right, let me share my screen. This is the book of First Peter chapter 1, and I'm going to read verse 13. It says, "Wherefore, gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach." All right, let's read this in the NLT as well. All right, this is First Peter chapter 1 and verse 13 in the NLT. It says, "So think clearly and exercise self-control." All right, so that's what the scripture means when it says be sober. You're supposed to be thinking clearly. And how do you think clearly? You think clearly by getting into the word, by meditating on the scriptures. All right, and it says, "Look forward to the gracious salvation that will come to you when Yahweh Shai HaMashiach is revealed to the world." All right, so that's what this thing is all about. Exercising self-control is also important, because here in America, all right, Babylon the Great, all right, it was basically set up, all right, to distract you, all right, to lure you into wickedness, which is why when John the Revelator saw Babylon the Great as that woman riding upon the beast, all right, he was, allured, he was taken back, and he had to be snapped out of it, by the angel, and what does that mean? That means that it's very easy to get lost in the sauce, here in Babylon the Great. It's very easy to get distracted, to get caught up by whatever vice that may be playing on your flesh. All right, women, social media, all right, scrolling. All right, all these things are a part of, Satan's arsenal. All right, so we have to be mindful and we have to keep our minds. All right, matter of fact, that leads me to another precept I'm gonna get real quick. This is Proverbs chapter 4. Let's get this. In verse 23, it says, "Guard your heart above all else." All right, which is really going into your mind. Let me read this in the KJV. All right, Proverbs 4 and 23, it says, "Keep thy heart with all diligence." All right, and the word heart in the Hebrew is la'ab, and that word keep, when you go into it, matter of fact, let's click on it. Natazar means to guard, to watch over. All right, so that's a part of being sober minded as well. All right, you got to watch over your mind. You got to pay attention to the things, all right, that you're allowing yourself to look at, all right. You know, the things that you're letting into your mind. We know that Esau, you know, has been given power on the left hand side, and a lot of that power that he uses, all right, in the media, all right, various forms of media, music, all right, movies, TV shows, right, so on and so forth. All right, so let's read this again. This is Proverbs 4 and 23. It says, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Right. So if you're not doing that, if you're not keeping your heart, if you're not protecting it, there are going to be problems. All right. You're going to run into, you know, particular issues in your daily life. All right. Spiritual stumbling blocks, holds. Right. So that's all a part of keeping your heart with all diligence. You know, this I want to get this real quick, going back into the topic. All right, preparing your mind for persecution. All right, because when you hone in on this, all right, it forces you to prepare. You know, similar to the way Noah did. Okay, let's get this real quick. This is Hebrews chapter 11, and I'm gonna read verse 7. It says, by faith, Noah, being warned of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua of things not seen as yet. All right, because when Noah was warned of the flood, it had never rained. All right, that was seen as basically an impossibility, something that was not possible. All right, and here it is in 2026. You got niggas that think that Jacob's trouble is not possible. You got niggas that think that, you know, the curses, us going into slavery, captivity via, you know, slave ships, all right, segregation, all right, that period of time, you know, where Jake was getting, you know, lynched. Those things were, you know, troublesome, but that wasn't Jacob's trouble. All right, Jacob's trouble is getting ready to be very, very, very plain, very, very clear. All right, just look at what's happening up there in Minnesota. All right, you literally got ICE agents going door to door, busting down people goddamn door, man. All right, but let's finish this out. It says Hebrews 11:7. It says, by faith, Noah, being warned of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith. All right, so preparation is a must. All right, preparation is a must, and it starts, you know, in your mind and in the spirit, you know. So let me get another precept. I didn't plan on this being long, just wanted to make a couple points. All right, let's get this in John 15 real quick. All right, because, you know, don't expect, you know, the persecution is going to be, you know, it's going to be off, it's going to be whack. You know, it's going to be lame. Don't expect it to make sense. All right, don't expect it to, you know what I mean? It's going to be however Yahweh Bashem Yahushua has ordained it to be. Brothers are going to be labeled, you know, particular things, right? Weirdos, pedos, right? All that. All right, you getting ready. The men of the Lord are getting ready to be put on full front street, full blast. All right, but that's why you were supposed to die, really, when you came into this truth. You know, like when the scriptures talk about being born again. All right, when the scriptures talk about denying yourself, really, you were supposed to die when you came into this thing. So all of that Esau has planned, it shouldn't have an effect really on the men of the Lord. The men of the Lord won't give a damn. All right, but this is John chapter 15, and I'm gonna read verse 18. All right, it says in the subheader on this, it says disciples' relation to the world. All right, that makes me think about First John, the second chapter. All right, love not the world, you know, nor the things of the world. You know, I might have to get that after this. This is John 15 and 18. It says, if the world hate you, ye know that it hated me before it hated you. Right. And like the scripture saying in Isaiah 53, all right, the Lord, his image was marred more than any man. All right. So the Lord was hated. All right. He was hated. And we ain't even on the level of Yahushua. All right. We ain't even going to have to endure on the level that Yahushua did, because he was the only one that could even handle that. You know, the tribulation, the trial that each and every one of us brothers are going to have to endure is going to match, you know, your spirit. It's going to match your level. You know, the Lord knows how much each individual brother can handle. But this is John 15 and 18. It says, if the world hate you, ye know that it hated me before it hated you. If ye were of the world would love his own. All right. And what do people love here in Babylon the Great, man? People love wickedness. All right. People love wickedness. They love vanity. All right. Material things, looking the part, but being full of shit. All right. And that's the opposite of what we are. All right. We're the opposite. The Lord set it up to where so-called, disgruntled, destitute, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, preaching on the street corners, they're the ones with the real substance. All right. The Lord put it right out in plain view. All right. Just to go right over you people's head. All right. And all these people you see on the internet, all these TikTok prophets, these lame ass niggas like Anton Daniels, right? Charleston White, right? Even Corey Holcomb. And I fuck with Corey Holcomb. He funny. But all these niggas in the world, man, they don't got it. They don't got it. But because they come in that worldly spirit, people eat that shit up, But this is John 15 and 19. It says, if you were of the world would love his own. But because ye are not of the world, I have chosen you out of the world. Therefore, the world hateth you. Right? People hate us. All right. And the hate is mutual. The hate is mutual, man. I'm gonna read verse 20. It says, remember the word that I said unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord. If they have persecuted me, they will also persecute you. All right. And what did the Lord do when he was persecuted? Let's get that real quick. Let's get that in Philippians 2. All right. This is Philippians 2 and 5. It says, let this mind be in you, which was also in Yahushua HaMashiach. All right. And in order for that mind to be in you, it goes back to the precepts we just brought out. That's a preparation thing. That's a using the grace period correctly thing. That's not just a mind you're just gonna be able to just automatically download. When shit hits the fan. No, that's part of that preparation. All right. It says, let this mind be in you, which was also in Yahushua HaMashiach, who being in the form of the Most High, thought it not robbery to be equal with the Most High. All right. Because Yahushua was on a mission, to basically right the wrongs of the entirety of the nation of Israel and be that ultimate sacrifice. But also, like you can read about in 1 Corinthians, Yahushua knew he was Adam. So he knew he knew he was on a mission, all right, to get the victory. All right. But it says, but made himself of no reputation and took upon him the form of a servant and was made in the likeness of men. And being found in the fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. Right. And we had touched on that in class this past week. All right. When that says even the death of the cross, all right, Paul is highlighting basically how crucial and how brutal Yahushua's death was. And he knew it was going to be like that. And he still humbled himself. He still took it, which is, and that's the mentality. This is the formula right here. in these verses that we're reading, and these are the scriptures that these other cats, these other guys, they ain't going into these scriptures, man. They ain't going into Jacob's trouble. They ain't going into what it's going to take on a spiritual tip, on a spiritual level, for you to stand a chance, for you to stand stiffly. Okay. But this is Philippians 2:8. It says, and being found in the fashion as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. Wherefore Yahweh also hath highly exalted him and given him a name which is above every name, right? Going into his rank, his authority, his lot, which is the most powerful being in the universe, right? Verse 10, it says that at the name of Yahweh Shai, every knee should bow, of things in heaven and things in earth and things under the earth, and that every tongue should confess that Yahweh Shai HaMashiach is Lord, to the glory of Yahweh, God the Father. All right. So Yahweh Shai took it on the chin, and he was greatly rewarded. Okay, but let's go back and finish this in John 15, and I'm gonna wrap it up. This is John chapter 15, and verse 20 all the way through. It says, remember the word that I said unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord. If they have persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they have kept my saying, they will keep yours also. All right. Because when you read the Gospels, all right, the wicked scribes and Pharisees that was plotting on the Lord, they would remember certain statements that he made, and they would bring them up in councils to persecute him. You know, like when Yahushua was persecuted, all right, they were using things that he said against him. You know, the same way you fast forward now, the same thing is getting ready to happen. All these videos that we've been doing, all these the preaching on the highways and byways that we've been doing, Esau's got a giant database where he's gonna splice it up, he's gonna clip it up. All right, he's gonna have you looking like a complete asshole. All right, and he's gonna persecute your ass, man. We know this is coming. We know this is coming, man. But guess what? Second Timothy 1:7, the Lord has gave us not a spirit of fear. And these people are the ones that are wrong, man. We know we ain't. This is the truth, you know. So that's all I had. Just wanted to make a quick point on that. Lord's willing, it was edifying. With that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem HaKadosh. Double honors again to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth, and Shalom.